What's going on with LinkedIn? And when can we start doing cool stuff with LinkedIn?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could share anything or talk about kind of longer term, what might be coming, how advertisers should be thinking about it.
Sure. I mean, we don't have an announcement per se today that we're going to release, but as everyone can appreciate, we see significant value behind both of these assets. That is LinkedIn and what we believe we have in Bing. When you combine across Microsoft, across LinkedIn, what we believe to be with LinkedIn the largest professional network globally, and then with Microsoft and the Office suite, the largest productivity asset in the world, we believe there's a lot of scenarios that we can leverage and create some pretty exciting things. So initially the focus across LinkedIn and Microsoft at large has been with Office and LinkedIn. But as you think about the opportunities for marketers that we're beginning to explore across Bing and LinkedIn, there's a few areas that we are exploring, and you can expect to hear more on this. For example, first of all, we do believe we can improve the user understanding dramatically, quite frankly, as we think about things like targeting attribution, our ability to really unlock audience understanding across both LinkedIn and Bing. Both LinkedIn and Bing have sizable audience graphs, user graphs, knowledge graphs that we can certainly look to as we think about how do we continue to drive more audience solutions as a part of Bing and LinkedIn. So that's the first area that we're exploring intently, and we expect to have some significant value that we can offer advertisers very shortly there. The second area is the idea of more reach. Both LinkedIn and Bing Ads continue to hear from customers like yourselves that we're supply constrained. You see significant value in the executions you enjoy today, the conversions, in the cost and ROI for conversions, and you suggest to us that we'd like to see more. And we believe we can offer more as we think about the extensibility from the LinkedIn products into our Microsoft assets, whether it be MSN, whether it be Hotmail, Outlook Mail, the likes of the Office suite. We believe there's a lot of opportunity to see that extensibility of the LinkedIn products natively into those experiences. And then the other way, we certainly believe, as we think about the large affiliate publisher network that Bing Ads enjoys today, we believe LinkedIn can also be very complementary to that as we think about the search experience across LinkedIn. So we, again, believe there's more reach opportunities that we're exploring and hope to open up shortly to the advertising community. And then the third area that we're really exploring is the idea around improved product, call it performance or engagement. With the understanding of these user graphs, we think there's a lot we can do in terms of better integration across services. A great example of this was announced relatively recently, just a little bit earlier this spring, with our Dynamics 365, which is our CRM product or service, as well as with Sales Navigator and the recruiting experience that LinkedIn offers. So today now, when you actually see a conversion across whether it be Sales Navigator or the recruiter and lead ads experiences that LinkedIn offers, that directly integrates into your Dynamics 365 product. So that information you're capturing through those conversions, through those advertising solutions and experiences are now directly integrated into Dynamics 365. So a great way that services in a very efficient and a very productive way are being leveraged already as we think about driving improved product experience and engagement. And you can expect a similar sort of scenario that we're exploring with advertising as to how do we link some of these experiences really intentionally. So again, it's a great opportunity for Microsoft. We obviously placed a large bet here with Jeff and the LinkedIn team. Satya certainly felt, though, as we looked across these assets with the likes of an Office suite and the world's largest productivity suite and the likes of LinkedIn and the largest professional network, there's a lot of opportunity for us and ultimately opportunity for you going forward.
And on the mobile piece, so supply on mobile obviously has been a challenge. LinkedIn, I think, is something like 80% is mobile activity with LinkedIn is mobile. So I guess transitioning into that discussion of
Yeah.
how are you thinking about mobile supply? And I know syndication has been kind of a big piece of that. Is that still a key strategy that Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, those kinds of syndication partners? And so let's talk about that, and maybe a bit about how LinkedIn flows into that,
For sure.
if that's part of that.
No, that's
strategy.
I mean, we all like to talk about mobile. I mean, we should be talking about mobile. When we talk about Microsoft, and if Satya was here, he'd say we're a cloud-first and a mobile-first organization. But we talk about mobile really in the context of the mobility of technology. As everyone knows, we don't have a strong position relative to a mobile OS. We understand that. But we also see that technology is really pervasive with the idea that technology is now becoming omnipresent. And so the mobility of technology is where we're really focusing our energy and our efforts. And there's data to support this. I mean, today, for example, an individual is connected to 4 devices on average, every individual. By the year 2020, we're talking about with the Internet of Things, over 50 billion devices will be connected. So you do the quick math on that. Let's say you have 3.5 billion people in the world that are actually somehow connected. You do the math on that, that means every individual is connected to 10 plus devices. So the mobility of technology is the area that we continue to focus when we think about supply and the opportunities around that. And there's a couple ways we're approaching it. Number one, as Ginny mentioned, certainly the idea of partnerships is very much a part of how we think about growing our mobile supply. And there's 2 levels of partnerships for Bing specifically. We have our syndication partnerships. We're continuing to explore those. We've gotten great traction in the years past around our relationships like we have with AOL, now moving into the Oath era. The relationship that we have.
And we'll never get used to that.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yes. Okay.
The relationship we have with the likes of CBS Interactive, IAC. So we continue to explore these syndication partnerships where we believe there's a ton of value that we can bring around our intelligence of Bing into those experiences. The other area around partnership is distribution. As many of you know, we have some terrific distribution partnerships that we like to talk about. I mean, with some of the leading brands, right? We do power on Apple, we power Siri and Spotlight. So as you think about the mobility of technology in this onset of conversation and voice and Siri, we're positioned in a way that we feel we're positioned well to continue to grow mobile supply as you think about the pervasiveness of technology through voice and through conversation. We also enjoy the relationship with Silk, which is the browser for the Amazon devices, namely the Kindle devices. So Bing is powering those relative to the search intelligence. So we're going to continue to explore very intentionally the distribution aspect of partnerships as well. So that's the idea around partnerships as we think about mobile supply growth. Now the other area as we think about mobile supply growth is around the ecosystems. And so in the Satya and Nadella era, as many of you know very well, versus some of our former eras with Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates, we are very much about how do we think about building for the competing, if you will, ecosystems. That is iOS, that is Android, beyond just the Windows ecosystem. And we recognize that that's important for us because we have great services like Bing Ads, like LinkedIn now, that we believe need to be completely unlocked within those ecosystems. So you can experience Cortana, for example, fully on the iOS ecosystem through a fantastic application. You can on Android. So we're going to continue to build for those ecosystems. In some cases, we actually build for iOS and Android first, before Windows. Because in this era now, we really believe there's so much opportunity there for us to see our services enjoy that type of exposure and that type of engagement with the customers across, certainly those ecosystems. Then the third area when you think about supply, and this will probably segue us maybe a little bit into the idea of artificial intelligence, is this convergence that we're starting to really, in the shift that we're starting to experience as an industry. I believe we're really seeing a platform shift where we had certainly the PC of the 80s, the internet of the 90s, the smartphone technology in the first part of the century. Now we're moving with voice and conversation. You're seeing a dramatic sort of platform shift beginning. And then part of that shift is a function of the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that with the Internet of Things, how can people really engage meaningfully and productively with so many devices? Well, it has to be natural. It has to be a natural user interface, a way for them to connect across multiple devices, whether it be in your home, whether it be in your car, whether it be at the airport, whether it be at the office. And so the idea of voice and conversation and what we're beginning to do with Cortana is the other area that we believe we can gain a lot of mobile supply, or we can start to enjoy more robustly the idea of the mobility of technology.
Yeah, so talk more about Cortana, the idea of conversation as a platform, and kind of how this room should be thinking about what Microsoft is doing on the voice side and how that can translate back to their businesses.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And maybe the tie isn't there yet, but kind of the big picture.
Well, we all, as an industry, we have to get behind it, right? Because if you read Mary Meeker's recent report, she cited the 2020 number, in which the expectation is that nearly 50% of all search queries will be experienced through voice. So that's something we have to embrace as an industry and understand how is that going to change not only the economics but the engagement for consumers going forward, and how do we think about the role of search engine marketing in that space? So, first of all, from a consumer perspective, we believe conversation is definitely very much a function going forward. And so we have begun to unlock the technology around bots. And the idea you can have chat bots, you can have voice-powered bots, but it's the idea that you can really unlock the intelligence of Bing and the corpus of information that we enjoy in a way that's very conversational, in a way that people can engage very naturally. We have Google and Microsoft, the only two companies in the world that are positioned with the intelligence fabric of search and the deep, rich entity corpuses that we have to really unlock the idea of these cognitive intelligence services in ways that can really be meaningful for customers. And so as we think about it from a search engine marketing perspective, the first manifestation of this is really the idea of bots. And the idea of Cortana, for example, powering a bot. The idea of marketers beginning to build bots that not only enjoy the intelligence of, let's say, Bing, but also are integrated with the intelligence of their particular brand. So expressions of this that are starting to show up specifically in search engine marketing are, if you spend time, let's say, on Bing search, and you search, for example, you might query a local restaurant, you might see within, for example, an extension, you'll see a bot extension, where they can click right there and they can begin to chat with that experience and understand what are your hours, what's on your menu, do you have vegan, do you have gluten-free options? And the bot experience, again, powered by the intelligence of Bing, powered by the information that the marketer has unlocked, you can begin to have a rich conversation. And all of a sudden you're unlocking search in a much more meaningful way, beyond just, let's say, the sort of arcane idea of typing and querying, but beginning to actually use chat and eventually voice in powerful ways. So we make this framework, this bot framework, available to our marketers. It's easy, relatively easy for you to begin to build on using the API and the technology, and then being able to publish into our bot ecosystem. And we also make ourselves available to help and guide our marketers very much through that process. But we're early stages, but we are building an ecosystem that can certainly operate within the likes of the Facebook messaging ecosystem, certainly within the likes of the iOS and Android experiences fully. So we're building, but we believe we're building an experience, and we're beginning to unlock what is the platform shift that we're all beginning to experience as an industry.
Last fall, when it was out for Bing Ads Next, yes, was talking to David Pan, and he just kind of mentioned, we're experimenting with a bot in Bing Ads to act as kind of an assistant account manager, and it's called Associate Account Manager in a box. Can you talk a little bit about that? It's a bot, right? And
yeah, I can. And I should probably talk about, it's a great question. I should talk about it in the context of what are we doing around machine learning and automation that's relevant to marketers.
Yeah.
How are we beginning to think about that? Because we are stepping into a really interesting era, aren't we? It's exciting. And let me say a couple things about that, because I think it's incredibly inspiring for us as marketers and people involved in search. I mean, when you think about these forces today in terms of cloud computing, the idea of big data, and then the richness of deep analytics, we are beginning to unlock then with the idea of machine learning on top of that, automation, as well as natural user interface. We're unlocking this supercomputer, which has the ability to really unlock some powerful scenarios for us in this industry, because what is powering this supercomputer and the intelligence fabric is search and the information corpus that's a part of that. And so data scientists are starting to explore this in really unique ways. I don't know if you saw, for example, the Seattle Times yesterday. Some of you might have seen it. But just a great example of some inspiring things that are coming from the idea of machine learning as well as automation. So the gentleman that leads our analytics work at Microsoft, John Cahan, lost 13 years ago, unfortunately, his son to SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. And it's a tragic thing, but there's a lot of unknowns around it. So he went off in the last week to Kilimanjaro on the 13th anniversary of the son's passing to actually climb Kilimanjaro, and raise funds to help better understand SIDS. Well, the data scientists that worked for him while he was gone began to really explore and create some really unique algorithms, deep algorithms around data analytics and machine learning to understand, are there certain risks and behaviors that are undiagnosed, that are unknown prior to someone experiencing this, that they can begin to understand and get ahead of and begin a diagnosis process to avoid and mitigate SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. So powerful stuff that's really inspiring, that's getting unlocked in this generation as we begin to experience the idea, again, of what we have at surface and how we begin to overlay machine learning, automation, and the idea of natural user interface. And the other one that we've explored recently is pancreatic cancer, where we took search logs specifically, anonymized search logs, and pancreatic cancer, as many of you know, has a significantly high fatality rate, over 90%. But it's the idea to address the fatality rate is all in early diagnosis. So data scientists looked at this information, anonymized search logs, understood 3 years out what were some of the behaviors that these pancreatic cancer patients were actually searching for, to get ahead of that. So it's really powerful stuff. Now, how do you apply that? That's the consumer side. How do you begin to apply it to search engine marketing? Well, we began to apply machine learning automation in a few ways. First of all, as we think about it, we have within the Bing Ads experience, as we have our opportunities tab. And that's a rich set of execution tactics that we provide to search engine marketers. That's based on our machine learning around ad performance, around market, industry trends, as well as marketplace insights and signals that we're harvesting in real time to understand how can you further optimize through these tactics your particular campaign in ways that are going to be super meaningful to you relative to your ROI and click performance. So one example where machine learning, again, overlaid on rich data, is beginning to produce insights that are highly productive to search engine marketers. The other one there's two others that we're beginning to explore with pretty intently, as you know. Now, we're a little bit behind on this one with dynamic search ads, but we see a lot of opportunity with dynamic search ads. We are in beta with dynamic search ads, and obviously the opportunity to begin to overlay machine learning and automation there richly to allow for more automated SEM experience, especially with small businesses or smaller businesses that don't have the enterprise level commitment, is something that we see a lot of opportunity on, and we're unlocking as you think about the idea of machine learning and automation. And then the third area is the idea around enhanced CPCs. So we're out there today, we've been out nearly for a year with enhanced CPCs, and the ability to really, in a more automated way, allow the machine and the machine learning, which we know in many ways has a higher order of perfection than we do in terms of cognitive services, to allow that to take control of your campaign and drive your bidding in a way that delivers higher click performance and conversion performance. We're very shortly later this summer going to be introducing the features around max click, max CPA, target CPA, and then max conversion. So we're going to be introducing those attributes as well to our enhanced CPC product suite. So we're excited about those coming as well. But again, some ideas as to how we go from incredibly inspiring sort of work we're doing around AI to, again, the more, let's say, commercial end of it around the Bing Ads marketplace.
Yeah, and I guess I'll kind of ask the same question I asked Jerry about how search marketers should be approaching their work and thinking about their work. And we can talk about it in a Bing ad specific context, but kind of just generally how machine learning and AI is changing how we do our work. And from a Bing ad standpoint, how can that help us talk to clients about the Bing Ads opportunities? How can it help us get more traction from good results you're already seeing in Bing Ads? How's that kind of?
Well, I mean, I guess I would bring it back to two sort of simple paths I would take. If I'm sitting in your shoes relative to a search engine marketer, and you want to harness fully the capabilities, number one, take advantage, work closely with your account teams and take advantage of the early adoption opportunities that we're providing in the beta releases around some of the things I just mentioned. Begin to explore quickly and intently with these opportunities that are involving much more machine learning, much more automation, because we're building these into our marketplace, and we can only improve the fidelity with your participation and your engagement, because we know that certainly the success of the product is built on the success that you enjoy. So that's the first area. The second area I encourage you to do is begin to really challenge us and challenge our account teams on how should we participate with the likes of conversation and voice, and because you're really going to help us understand what are the right economics, what do those monetization models look like as we begin to see query volume significantly move out of typically typed in user interface on a screen, but begin to move to more screenless scenarios. Because we need your help in understanding what do the marketplace opportunities look like in that. And we're moving fast. It is moving fast. Today, a large percentage of the queries that are transacted through voice are more consumer related and they're less commercial. But that's going to shift pretty quickly, especially with the Internet of Things and the mobility of devices. We're going to see much more, as I said, and Mary Meeker made that case very much in her recent report.
Yeah. So all the things you're kind of working on now, looking out, what are you most excited about? And what are you most excied about, and what should advertisers be looking forward to?
Audience. So those of you who know Bing know that we are unapologetically a fast follower. We recognize certainly the strength and the great asset that Google has driven into this industry. We recognize that our place at this time is to continue to be a strong follower and recognize some of the great things that they're doing, and make sure if we're going to ask for your share of mind, and we think there's value in that share of mind because we believe we have significant audience that you want to engage and reach, but we need to also make it easy for you. And so that's part of the principle behind why we are a fast follower and why there's historical precedent for us to, in many ways, drive for parity in terms of the Google experience to the Bing Ads experience. And so when I mentioned audience, we are now in some ways following Google, but we believe there's significant opportunity as again, we experience a shift here from keyword to audience solutions. With the richness of data, we need to be much more intentionally focused on audience. And how do we bring the intelligence around audience? So we have 3 experiences that 2 of them are released now that we're beginning to explore. One of them, of course, is first of all our custom audience product. That's an open beta, and it's an opportunity for us now to actually join or take that first party data that you enjoy, bring it into a DMP experience, specifically the Adobe Audience Manager, and begin to allow, through remarketing and through other targeting attribution, begin to allow us to work with you and develop specific segments for better optimized and richer and more relevant targeting. So custom audiences is the first thing that I'm really excited about within the audience suite. The second area is the idea of mid-market audiences. And you and Jerry talked a little bit about this, but we certainly see with the Bing intelligence corpus and that rich data, we see a lot of opportunity for us to build out audience segments that are specifically mapped around marketers' goals that are in market relevant, whether it be auto and home, for example, high consideration purchases, or whether it be lower consideration purchases like in retail, shoes. But how do we create these in-market audiences based on our understanding of data and user behavior, so marketers can take advantage of that at the right time, at the right place. So we also have that in open beta, and we're beginning to experiment and explore that with customers, so we're excited about that. And then the third one that's not out yet, but we're in the process of exploring it, and we're doing some very early experimentation with in our marketplace team, is similar audiences. So that will sort of round out the suite in terms of, as you will, look-alike and the idea there, but that'll round out in the near term our suite around audience solution selling and how we're quickly moving there, because we want to, we desire and we intentionally want to unlock the richness of audience selling and solutions for our search engine marketers. We want your engagement in that. So take advantage of the 2 open betas, as I mentioned, in custom audiences as well as in market audience. Work with us, and let's see if we can quickly move these to general availability, and with your help and with your participation.
That's exciting. And so if they're interested in the betas, how do they do that?
They work with their account teams specifically. And reach out to them. So their account teams are well versed, they've gone through their readiness on those, and they're well aware of these opportunities.
Okay. Great. So you talk about it as being a fast follower of Google, and I think everyone in the room understands the need for that, and well, is thankful for the parity making jobs easier, right?
Makes jobs
easier.
easier.
And the capabilities get richer, which everyone also appreciates. So from a differentiator, how should advertisers also be thinking about Bing as different, as its own thing and what it can offer? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think for us, when we think about differentiation for Bing, at some extent, we think about how does Bing relate to the larger opportunity and the opportunities that Microsoft at large offers customers and marketers. And so we're thinking a lot about that in the context of digital transformation. I mean, with technology being omnipresent, we're moving into a fascinating era where digital transformation is at very much the core of what Microsoft is about as we think about our mission of empowerment. And how do we make you all that much more successful in your roles? And digital transformation, while it's a new term, it's not necessarily, there aren't new business challenges associated with it. That's what's kind of interesting. So the business challenges are very familiar to you. The business challenges like, how do we engage with customers? How do we optimize operations in a particular enterprise? How do we empower employees? How do we transform product development? And so Microsoft participates across that continuum in really interesting ways, whether it be transforming product with the likes of a HoloLens, and how does that become part of the development process within an enterprise organization? If it's, for example, empowering employees, how do you use the Office 365 suite to really drive for greater productivity with your employer, within your employee ecosystem? Whether it's, and then if it's optimizing your operations, how do you use things like Dynamics 365 to address your SLAs globally, to make sure your real time and your customer engagement time is that much more meaningful and productive? And then for engaging with customers, that's where the opportunities, the rich opportunities we believe around Bing exist. Because it's there that Bing can offer so much in terms of how we engage with customers. And what we're beginning to unlock beyond just the search engine marketing is how do we offer our marketers more of a marketing transformation stack that's inclusive of things like the Cortana Intelligence Suite that unlocks APIs around cognitive services that allow you as a marketer to really begin to explore things like I mentioned earlier, like the bot framework, explore things like voice, build technologies that allow you to unlock in interesting ways the intelligence of Bing. So we're beginning to explore this really richly in terms of how do we take the engagement with customers at the level of Bing from a search engine marketing perspective and begin to unlock services beyond that the CMO is really interested in understanding that we have access to now when we think about things like the intelligence suite. We think about things as well behind the intelligence suite around Bing Predicts and the predictive technology that we can unlock with companies that really allow you then to begin to think about advertising performance, demand forecasting, consumer sentiment, all the intelligence that's powering that thing that we're beginning to unlock and offering to marketers. So those are some of the things that get me really excited about thinking about the opportunities longer term for Bing and how marketers should start thinking about it beyond just search engine marketing and a SERP experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's a much bigger picture, but it's also, as you're talking about, it's really interesting to start thinking about the search marketer's role within the organization. And I mean, for what you're talking about, there's so many opportunities to sort of be a thought leader and kind of at the forefront within their organizations with all these trends and unlocking search data, but what that can mean for the broader organization and being at the forefront of how machine learning is impacting what you're doing. And so I guess, I mean, do you kind of see the search team having more hands in different places within organizations?
Very much so. I mean, I think I can speak personally from the role that search, the transformative role that search is having within Microsoft. Right? Again, as you think about this push into cloud computing, the idea of data and then the rich analytics that surround that, and then you overlay all the AI work. Well, what is the intelligence behind that? Well, it's search. It's the information corpus that's been built around search. So if you are a search engine marketer within an enterprise or a small business, you sit in a very meaningful place in terms of the ability to really drive thought-leading solutions. Because as we think about, again, the extensibility of technology into all these unique experiences, the cognitive services and the intelligence behind those services is going to be search. And so you play, you're in an incredible space right now in terms of your ability to really lead and drive opinion as to what a CMO should be thinking about, how a CMO should be thinking about transformation within their operating model, within their suite of services, and how does search play a role in that with the intelligence that you can potentially unlock around data, machine learning, AI, and all the exciting things you can start to explore with. So, absolutely.
They're inspiring.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really exciting stuff. It is. Someone asked me recently about, what is the next tipping point? And I do believe the next tipping point is coming right now with AI, because as I mentioned earlier, you cannot consume and adopt and interface with all these Internet of Things without the ability to begin to introduce AI. So the fact that we're living in a time to fully experience this, and search is, if you will, the cognitive sort of understanding and reasoning behind that, and you guys are right in the center of it with search engine marketing, it's kind of a cool spot.
It is cool. And what a great way to kick off this conference with that idea that we're all heroes and and our roles are going to be that much more important as we go by. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yes, so round of applause for Steve.